Welcome back to Thinkiverse, unlocking knowledge across the spectrum every day. I'm Ryan Lamas, and we're diving into a health trend that's been making waves.
Intermittent fasting.
You got it. It seems like everywhere you turn, people are talking about it.
Yeah, it's definitely having a moment.
So to help us break down the science behind this fascinating approach, we have the brilliant Rona Esqueleto with us.
Hey, Ryan, thanks for having me.
Glad you're here. Now, you sent us a thought-provoking interview with Dr. Jason Fung from the YouTube channel, The Diary of a CEO Clips. And it's clear why he's often called the founder of modern intermittent fasting.
He really is a pioneer in this field.
So let's jump right in. What's so intriguing about Dr. Fung's approach?
Well, one thing that really sets him apart is that he goes beyond the simple calories in, calories out model.
Okay, I've definitely heard that before. But what does he say instead?
He dives deep into the hormonal shifts that happen in our bodies when we fast, emphasizing that weight management is about so much more than just willpower.
Right. It's not just about counting calories. It's about understanding how our bodies actually work.
Exactly. And Dr. Fung does a brilliant job of explaining the complex interplay of biological processes involved.
He really challenges that idea that it's all about willpower, doesn't he?
Absolutely. He emphasizes extending the periods when we're not eating, allowing insulin levels to drop, and as he explains, trigger fat burning.
This is where it starts to get really interesting for me, because I always thought fasting would just slow down my metabolism and make me lose muscle mass.
That's a common misconception, and Dr. Fung addresses it head-on. He actually points to studies showing that our basal metabolic rate, the rate at which we burn calories at rest, can actually increase during fasting.
Wait, hold on. So you're telling me fasting can actually boost your metabolism?
It sounds counterintuitive, but that's what the research suggests.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Well, Dr. Fung explains that during fasting, our bodies shift into a more active state, hormonally speaking.
So in a way, our bodies become more efficient at burning energy by tapping into stored energy.
Precisely. It's like flipping a switch from storage mode to burning mode.
And this is where the whole hormonal dance comes in.
Right? Dr. Fung talks about insulin and leptin as key players in this process.
Okay. Remind me what those hormones do again.
Sure. So insulin is released when we eat, and it promotes energy storage, which can lead to weight gain. Leptin, on the other hand, signals to our brains that we're full, promoting a healthy weight.
So to put it simply, insulin tells our bodies to store fat, while leptin says, hey, we're good here, no need to eat more.
You've got it. And Dr. Fung highlights that fasting helps rebalance this equation.
I see. By extending the time between meals, we give our bodies a chance to lower insulin levels and become more sensitive to leptin signals.
Exactly. It's about creating a hormonal environment that supports healthy weight management.
This makes so much sense.
Yeah.
It sheds light on why constantly snacking or eating frequently might actually be hindering our weight management goals.
Right. We're essentially keeping our insulin levels high and preventing our bodies from effectively burning fat.
It creates a cycle where our bodies are constantly in storage mode, not burning mode.
Precisely. And this is where Dr. Fung's insights about processed foods come into play.
Ah, yes. You're talking about how processed foods are often stripped of fiber, leading to those rapid sugar absorption and intense insulin spikes he mentions.
Exactly. And he uses a really powerful analogy to describe the effect of these foods on our bodies.
What's that?
He compares it to a cocaine-like experience.
Whoa, cocaine-like. That's a pretty intense comparison.
I know, but it really drives home the point. He's referring to the fact that these highly processed foods, stripped of their natural fiber, cause these massive insulin spikes, leading to cravings and even a sense of addiction to these types of foods.
So it's like we're hijacking our body's natural reward system with these processed foods.
You could say that. And it creates a vicious cycle where we consume them, get a rush of sugar and a dopamine hit, and then crave even more.
It's like we're caught in a web of unhealthy eating habits.
In a way, yes. But the good news is that understanding these processes, the hormonal interplay and the impact of processed foods, is the first step towards making more informed choices.
Right. It's about breaking free from that cycle and taking control of our health.
Exactly.
Now, we've talked about insulin and leptin, but what about protein? There's this big emphasis on protein for weight loss these days. Where does Dr. Fung stand on that?
It's a good question. And while he acknowledges that protein is crucial for our health, Dr. Fung emphasizes that it doesn't get stored as energy in the same way that carbohydrates and fat do.
So loading up on protein shakes might not be the weight loss solution people are hoping for.
It's not that simple. He stresses that focusing on whole, unprocessed foods and incorporating periods of fasting, which we'll discuss more in detail, can have a much more profound impact on our weight and overall health.
So it's not just about macronutrient quantity, but also about understanding how our body processes different types of fuel.
Exactly. He's all about looking at the bigger picture.
And speaking of the bigger picture, we've touched on different types of fasting, but it
Yeah.
seems like there's a whole world of options out there. From time-restricted feeding to multi-day fasts,
Hmm.
it can get confusing.
You're right. There's no one-size-fits-all approach. And we'll delve into the various methods Dr. Fung discusses after a quick break.
Sounds good. Before we go, let's take a moment to acknowledge our awesome viewers on YouTube. Be sure to like and subscribe to Thinkiverse Podcast, where we unlock knowledge across the spectrum every day. We'll be right back with more fascinating insights from Dr. Fung's approach to intermittent fasting.
See you soon. Welcome back to Thinkiverse Podcast.
We're diving deeper into the world of intermittent fasting with Dr. Jason Fung's insights.
Before the break, we were talking about all those different approaches to intermittent fasting.
Right, like it's not just skipping meals here and there.
Exactly. It's more about creating a strategic pattern of eating and not eating.
And you mentioned juice fasting, which seems like it's everywhere these days.
Yeah, a lot of people are into it. But Dr. Fung actually cautions that juice fasting might not be a true fast.
Oh, really? Why is that?
It's because of the sugar content in most juices. Even if you're only drinking liquids, those sugary juices could still spike your insulin levels. Ah, I see. And that's what we're trying to avoid with fasting, right?
Exactly. We want those insulin levels to go down. But Dr. Fung does acknowledge that there can be benefits to juice fasting.
Okay. So it's not all bad.
It depends on the ingredients. A green juice with lots of veggies would be better than a fruit juice loaded with sugar.
That makes sense. It's all about making smart choices, even when it comes to what we drink.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And speaking of smart choices, one of the most compelling things about Dr. Fung's work is his focus on reversing type 2 diabetes.
Yeah, you can really hear his passion when he talks about it.
He truly believes that this condition, which many see as chronic, can actually be reversed.
Through lifestyle changes.
Exactly, including intermittent fasting.
It's incredibly inspiring. He's basically challenging the idea that medication is the only solution.
Right. And his work at the Intensive Dietary Management Program has shown some amazing results.
People actually reversing their type 2 diabetes.
It's really a message of empowerment, reminding us that we have more control over our health than we might think.
It's like taking back the reins. Exactly. And Dr. Fung's message is one of hope and possibility for people struggling with type 2 diabetes.
He really emphasizes that our bodies are incredibly adaptable.
And capable of healing if we give them the right conditions.
This is what I love about this whole discussion. It highlights the power of lifestyle interventions.
We're not just stuck with what we've got.
There's so much we can do to improve our health naturally.
And that brings us to a key takeaway from this deep dive into Dr. Fung's approach. Intermittent fasting isn't just about weight loss.
It's a powerful tool for taking control of our metabolic health.
And tapping into our body's incredible ability to heal.
It's like we're shifting our mindset from constantly fueling our bodies to allowing them time to rest and recover.
And what's fascinating is how Dr. Fung connects this ancient practice of fasting to modern science.
Right, he's explaining the how and why behind it.
It's not just some mystical thing. It's
Right.
backed by scientific evidence.
It's refreshing to hear a medical expert advocate for such a natural and holistic approach to health.
Absolutely. But as we've been discussing, there are so many different ways to approach intermittent fasting.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing.
Exactly. And Dr. Fung emphasizes that too. There's no right way to fast. It's about finding what works for you and your lifestyle.
Whether it's time-restricted feeding or 24-hour fasts or even longer fast under medical supervision.
And it's important to remember that fasting is a tool that can be adapted and adjusted as our needs change.
It's not about rigid rules, but about listening to our bodies.
And finding a sustainable approach that supports our well-being.
We've explored the hormonal benefits, debunked some myths, and touched on different fasting methods.
But it's crucial to remember that Dr. Fung isn't just saying to fast and that's it.
Right. He talks about the importance of a healthy diet and lifestyle overall.
Choosing whole, unprocessed foods, reducing refined carbs and sugars, and getting regular exercise.
It's about making conscious choices that nourish our bodies from the inside out.
This deep dive has been eye-opening.
I feel like I have a much deeper understanding of how intermittent fasting works and why it can be so beneficial.
Me too. Dr. Fung's insights have really helped to demystify it all.
And what's really exciting is that this knowledge empowers us to make better decisions about our health.
It's not about following trends. It's about understanding how our bodies work and making choices that support our long-term well-being.
So for anyone listening who's intrigued by intermittent fasting, we encourage you to explore it further.
Do your research, talk to your doctor, and see if it might be right for you.
And before we wrap up this episode, I want to remind everyone that Thinkiverse podcast is dedicated to unlocking knowledge across the spectrum.
Every day.
Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more fascinating deep dives on all sorts of topics.
Thanks for joining us on this journey into the world of intermittent fasting.
We'll be back soon with more thought-provoking discussions. Until then, stay curious and stay healthy.
Welcome back to Thinkiverse podcast.
Unlocking knowledge across the spectrum every day.
As we wrap up our deep dive into intermittent fasting with Dr. Jason Fung.
You know, it's been a fascinating journey.
It really has. We've covered so much.
From debunking those common myths about fasting
to really exploring the science behind how it can impact our hormones and metabolism.
It's incredible how much we've learned.
It is. And as we've been talking about all this,
it struck me that intermittent fasting is more than just a diet.
Oh, absolutely.
It's almost a way of reconnecting with our body's natural rhythms.
That's a great way to put it. It's recognizing that our bodies aren't meant to be constantly on.
Yeah, they need those periods of rest and repair.
Exactly.
To really function at their best.
And fasting kind of provides that opportunity.
To reset and recharge.
It's like hitting the pause button on our digestive system.
And letting our bodies focus on other stuff.
Like cellular repair or detoxification.
And Dr. Fung really seems to emphasize that it's not about deprivation.
No, not at all.
Or extreme measures.
It's about finding a rhythm of eating and fasting.
That works for you.
And your body.
Your own personal rhythm.
He's all about long-term sustainability.
Right, not quick fixes or fad diets.
It's a lifestyle change.
And it's not about those rigid rules.
It's more about tuning in to your body's signals.
Like what it's trying to tell you.
Honoring those hunger and satiety cues.
You know, one thing that really stuck with me was Dr. Fung's closing message in the interview.
What was that?
He talked about how his greatest hope is to help people reverse type 2 diabetes.
And break free from conventional thinking about weight loss.
His message is so powerful.
It's a message of empowerment.
Reminding us that we have more control over our health than we often think.
We're not just at the mercy of our genes or circumstances.
We can make choices that support our health and well-being.
And that's what's so exciting about all of this.
So if you're listening and you're curious about intermittent fasting,
we encourage you to explore it.
Do your research.
Talk to your doctor.
And see if it might be a good fit for you.
Remember, it's a journey, not a race.
Find what works for you.
Listen to your body.
And embrace that process of discovering what feels best.
And a huge thank you to all of you
for joining us on this deep dive into intermittent fasting.
We hope you found it informative.
And insightful.
And as always,
be sure to the Thinkiverse podcast
for more deep dives on a wide range of topics.
We're unlocking knowledge across the spectrum every day.
Until next time, keep those minds curious.
And stay healthy.